This is The Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome. I'm Roger Stone, and this is The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Network. Here we talk politics. Politics is in our blood. We eat, sleep, and breathe politics. I think if I cut myself, I'd probably bleed politics. But one of the most important legal cases has broad political implications. You've all heard about Ross Ulbricht. He was pardoned by President Donald Trump. He's the IT genius who invented the dark web, and he was charged because other people sold illegal guns or drugs using the technology that he had invented. He didn't sell anything illegal. Others did. This would be like charging Alexander Graham Bell for inventing the telephone because some gangster later does a drug deal using the phone, with the drug dealer not getting charged. But now attention has shifted to the case of Roger Ver. Roger Ver, sometimes called Bitcoin Jesus, he was one of the pioneers of cryptocurrency. He was a long-time conservative and liberty activist in this country. Finally, he was forced essentially to denounce his American citizenship, and he has nonetheless been charged with income tax evasion. Recently, a Spanish court ruled that he must be extradited to the United States, where the Biden administration has vigorously attempted to bring him to trial. He has, fortunately for him, retained probably the finest criminal defense attorney in the United States. That would be David Schoen, who ably represented President Donald Trump in his impeachment inquiry before the U.S. Senate. Counselor Schoen joins us now to talk about the case of Roger Ver.
Thanks very much, Roger.
So, David, outlined this case, which has become a cause célèbre among libertarians. Tucker Carlson has called for clemency. Others, such as Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA, and many, many other prominent voices in the crypto world, have asked the U.S. Justice Department to examine this indictment prepared under the Biden Justice Department and consider dismissing it. Tell us about the case.
Well, the supporters have it exactly right. This is a case that never, ever, ever should have been brought as a criminal case and would not have been against anybody else. It's a case in which we have in this country something most people are not familiar with. That's called an exit tax. Most countries do not have it. It provides that if someone renounces his citizenship, becomes an expatriate, then that person is taxed on the value on what's called a deemed date, a date that is picked on, is taxed on all of that person's assets, whatever they are, unrealized gains. So just put in perspective, when we pay taxes, we pay tax on income, we pay tax on capital gains when we sell an asset. This is a tax on the value of the holdings the person has without anything ever being sold or any gain ever being made. So in this case, Roger Ver, as you have said, was a pioneer of the crypto industry. And so what he held mostly were crypto assets. At this time, at the time in question here, 2014, and even in years after that, the crypto industry was completely, there was discussion over how to value crypto within the industry, among the government agencies, and nobody agreed, frankly. Within various government agencies, the SEC, Department of Justice, the IRS, they couldn't agree on a formula for how it should be taxed, whether it should be taxed, whether it's considered currency, and so on. Nevertheless, in this case, the prosecutor who singled out Roger Ver on the Biden administration and decided to charge him criminally for not paying adequate taxes. He paid millions of dollars in taxes, but they came up with an arbitrary value for the crypto he was holding that defies any kind of logic or reason for a number of reasons. Number one, we didn't have a qualitative way of valuing crypto at that time. Number two, it would have been impossible for him to sell those assets. So it's a completely made up number. Had he tried to sell those assets, it would have crashed the crypto market. The single biggest marketer in crypto at the time went bankrupt. But there would not have been any market for this. And had he tried to sell the crypto that he held, it would have devalued crypto around the world and busted the economy. So it's completely unrealistic. But one of the main reasons this case never should have been brought, never would have been brought against anyone else, is because Roger Ver sought out top-notch tax counsel, tax lawyers and accountants at the time. He provided them with all of the information, and he made clear in email and conversation after email and conversation that he wanted to do the right thing, pay exactly what was owed, and nothing less. And that's exactly what he did. He followed those instructions. Now, if they got something wrong, and therefore he got something wrong, for any other citizen, you'd be treated like a civil matter. There'd be a dispute. Government would say you owe X amount more in money in taxes, and there would be a negotiation, but no one would be charged criminally. To charge criminally like he has been charged requires that he had a criminal intent when he acted. He absolutely did not and could not have. The advice of counsel knocks out that element, but beyond all of that, all of his communications show that he just wanted to do the right thing. This is a political prosecution. Roger Ver has been very outspoken against various government policies. He's a libertarian. And the government has targeted him for years. He never wanted to renounce his citizenship. He did it because he was a target and felt that that was going to haunt him forever and wherever he went. And so he did it. But, he wants to be an American. He was born an American. He loves this country. He invests in America. The reason so many celebrities and people in the crypto field are behind him is because he's in the right. And last thing I want to say about this is, to demonstrate how strongly the community is behind him, last week they had a major international crypto conference in Doha. They had a special panel convened on how the crypto community can show their support for Roger Ver.
David, I studied this. This exit tax does not tax income, nor does it tax any form of economic activity, transaction, or transfer. It's a direct tax on personal property, kind of a wealth tax imposed directly on the value of the property owned by the individual. Makes no difference the IRS had tied the imposition of that tax to a triggering event, in this case, expatriation, because the event in question is personal, not economic or commercial, has no nexus to the tax property. So if the exit tax were deemed unconstitutional, the IRS could invent any number of triggering events in order to single out targets of a wealth tax, a kind of a flying first-class tax rate, if it will, or anyone really in the crypto market. I feel strongly that the court must condemn this kind of unconstitutional overreach. But when we come back to David Schoen, here's the most shocking thing. During these proceedings, the FBI raided Roger Ver's tax attorneys, some of the most prominent tax attorneys in the country, and seized all of his records, including their formal opinion advising Mr. Ver on how much he should be taxed based on the formula as they interpreted it. I've never heard of such a thing. I think it's a violation of the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. You're supposed to have confidentiality between yourself and your lawyer. That includes your tax lawyer. When we come back, this case is getting more and more media attention, but we bring it to you here first on The Roger Stone Show here at the Red Apple Audio Network, and we'll be back with criminal defense lawyer David Schoen to lay out this blockbuster case that's going to have a lot to do with the future of the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin, and the alternative monetary system that's been set up there. More and more Americans moving to cryptocurrency because, well, it's more confidential. You don't have big brother government looking at it. In my opinion, this case is going to set real precedent for that entire industry and business. That's why I think Roger Ver was very smart to get David Schoen, in my opinion, the best criminal defense lawyer practicing today. And we'll be right back with David Schoen.
This is The Roger Stone Show. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, as they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're talking to criminal defense attorney David Schoen about the celebrated case of Roger Ver, sometimes referred to as Bitcoin Jesus, one of the original pioneers of cryptocurrency. Prior to Roger Ver making the painful decision to give up his citizenship in the country that he loves, he was the target of the same kind of lawfare that was used against President Donald Trump. Roger Ver sponsored a podcast by the outspoken libertarian Adam Kokesh, who would later seek the Libertarian Party nomination for president, but he wasn't nominated. I went back and listened to every one of those podcasts. At no time does Kokesh advocate his candidacy or vote for himself, but they decided that Roger Ver's sponsorship of the show was a political contribution. Fortunately, the Federal Election Commission tied 3-3, but even if this had been found against Ver, it would normally have been a fine, except for federal prosecutors wanted jail. Then they came up with an even ludicrous charge. Roger Ver invented a fireworks that farmers used to keep predatory crows off of their farm property, so they charged Ver with the illegal sale of fireworks. You can see why he made the difficult decision to give up his citizenship. Seems to me, David, that this real attack isn't on Roger Ver, it's on cryptocurrency. It's on Bitcoin. It's on this alternative and thriving monetary system. And the tax you mentioned, in contrast, let's say, with a death tax, there's no transfer or disposition that occurs upon expatriation. The government insists on deeming expatriation as the death of a citizen and a non-concomitant birth of a non-citizen, who the government then posits is a separate individual inheriting the wealth of his deceased citizen doppelganger. This is unconstitutional. It's a ridiculous burden on the fundamental right to expatriate. David, what say you?
I agree 100%. You've described it accurately. I also think it's unconstitutional because it's a due process violation, since nobody knew at the time how to value these things. There was no advance notice. I'll give you an example. On March 25th, 2014, weeks after the so-called constructive sale that the IRS deemed for Roger Ver, was the first time ever the IRS issued its guidance on virtual currency and how they would consider it to be taxable. And the IRS, when they do something like this, has a question and answer that they publish. And they specifically said that while there'll be taxable consequences, they will give relief if there's reasonable cause to believe there was some difference. So it's not handled criminally. It's handled civilly in a negotiation. And by the way, you described the fireworks arrest and the insistence on jail time for Roger Ver. Again, unprecedented. But what we know is we're not guessing about whether he's being targeted. What we know is an ATF agent was heard at the time during his case as saying, when someone suggested the sentence was too harsh and outrageous to send somebody for jail, he said, "Did you hear what he said about us?" What he was referring to was Roger Ver's outspokenness about the raid on the compound in Waco, in which he had said babies and mothers were killed and that sort of thing. The ATF heard that, and they prosecuted him because of it, or persecuted him would be more accurate in that case. And so here, you make a very important point. It's an attack on the crypto community. Many crypto investors have left the country because they were concerned about the Biden administration and the Obama administration treatment of crypto, how they were going to treat it, and their antipathy toward it, especially the Biden administration. Right now, crypto is a growing economy. The Trump administration has gotten behind it, and they recognize the value to our American economy of crypto. These people investing millions and billions of dollars in our American economy. This case to Roger Ver is so important for many of the reasons you said earlier, but also because of the message it sends to the crypto community and to our larger economy. We cannot afford to send that kind of message. This is the case the Justice Department must review They've said already they're going to re-examine cases of overreach and inappropriate prosecutions. This is the poster boy case for that kind of thing. It should be re-examined, and the criminal charges should be dismissed immediately.
Just seems to me the emergence of crypto just doesn't follow the same norms of traditional assets. The law needs to recognize the differences. The government really needs to set clear laws so this doesn't happen again. I'm actually confident with Jeffrey Sachs, who is kind of the crypto czar appointed by President Donald Trump, a truly brilliant guy who understands this industry and its importance to the United States, that that's very likely to happen. But I saw Alex Jones interviewing Roger Ver the other day on the internet. I think it had 46 million views last time I looked. There's an amazing new documentary out on this, produced by documentary maker Mickey Willis, who is, in my opinion, one of the great artists of the documentary film world. Tucker Carlson has called for the DOJ to re-examine this case and dismiss it, as has Charlie Kirk of the Turning Point USA organization, Angela McArdle of the Libertarian Party. More and more people are paying attention to this vital case. David, what are the next steps? Roger Ver, as I understand it, sits in Spain awaiting extradition. And it's up to the Trump Justice Department now. And you're right, they have announced that they're going to examine cases that were either weaponized prosecutions or that were flawed in outrageous government overreach. David?
And this case meets all of that criteria. I'm hopeful that the Justice Department will look at this case at the highest levels. Attorney General Bondi is a person of integrity. She's a person who takes her role as a prosecutor seriously and always has, and will not put up with misguided, politically motivated, weaponized prosecutions. All she has to do, by the way, or anyone has to do, is meet Roger Ver, and you will see the kind of person he is. He's a philanthropist, but he's a person who in every regard in his life has said he wants to do the right thing to comply with the law. He's not greedy. He's made his money honestly, and he invests his money in our economy, and as I say, he's philanthropic. He always has wanted to do the right thing. It's not the kind of case we ever want to criminalize, and I think Attorney General Bondi is going to see that when she has an opportunity to examine this case.
All right. Thank you to David Schoen, criminal defense attorney for Roger Ver. Keep an eye on this case. It's going to be in the news a lot.